Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Small School Athletic Director on the Educational AD podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Small School AD. But first, as always, we want to give a shout out to our many great sponsors. Now, please don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an AD or I've got a direct connection to, and I strongly recommend them to you. So take the next 3 or 4 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our guest, and then go visit these great sponsors. You're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thank you to Huddle for their support. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to work for all of our sports, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the tools that Huddle provided, and you will too. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, reporting scores, uploading rosters. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? And Home Campus is going to do all of these things better, going to do it faster. It's going to give you a lot of time back in your schedule. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to thank Snap Raise. If you have ever spent weeks with a fundraiser and ended up with little to show for it, stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it, our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We'd also like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but it's usually from the complainers, the people that want to gripe about everything. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that support your program. And that's tremendously valuable information to have, especially when you're talking with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. athleticsurveys.com. We'd also like to thank Gipper. These days it's all about promoting your athletes and your teams on social media. And if you're not, you're really missing a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you posting world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We'd also like to thank the Ohio University Online Master of Science in Athletic Administration. This is an affordable 20-month online program, and it focuses exclusively on athletic administration. When you finish, you're not only going to have your master's degree, you'll have 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go towards your RAA or your CAA. You're also going to be part of a nationwide network with graduate connections in athletics across the country. To get started, go to ohio.edu/info/MAA. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Small School Athletic Director on the Educational AD Podcast. This is our weekly series. We're still kind of new, where we feature athletic directors from smaller schools. And our definition of a small school is 300 or so students or less in the upper school, that 9 through 12 group. We've got a good friend with us today, Amy Elliott. She's the athletic director at Kentucky Country Day School. Obviously, that's in Kentucky. She's a certified master athletic administrator, tremendous background in athletics, and we're excited to have her on Small School AD. So, Amy Elliott, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Drake. I really appreciate being here today.
For our listeners, Amy and I are both experiencing some weather issues. So if the audio cuts out, don't worry, we're still here. Amy, you and I were talking before we started recording. We have similar schools. I'm retired, but I think our schools were very similar. What are some things that you have learned over the years that have really helped you in that leadership role as a small school athletic director that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, so I think being an athletic director is a smaller school, there's advantages and there's challenges. One of the things I think that's super important, at least at KCD, in terms of kind of leading and guiding our athletic program, is we're from JK through 12. So small school, I would say an average of 70 kids in a grade. And we're competing, at least in Kentucky. Besides football, we are not classed. So we are playing schools that are 400 boys in one grade, and we don't even have 400 people in our whole upper school. So one thing that I really try to stress, especially to our head coaches, is being program developers. And I tell them it's not rocket science. There really is kind of a blueprint that we have availability to work with our junior kindergartner students all the way up to our middle school kids. And that is kind of one of the tickets for us to be successful in the high school arena is, training those kids, retaining those kids, and really investing in them. So they want to play for you as a head coach, and they want to play for KCD. And it's 1 hour a day, and you can run anything you want. So since I can't coach anymore, and I do miss the coaching aspect, I'm helping my field hockey coaches by doing that after school program. I do it once in the fall and once in the spring. We've had up to almost 40 kids in the program. So there's 4-year-olds up to, kids that are going into 4th grade. And not only is it super fun, there is skill development, but there's also a lot of, there's some babysitting to it, but it's really just getting those kids excited about the sport, getting the kids introduced to the sport, having the varsity players help out and coach. That really makes a tremendous difference. Not only is it great, I see these little kids in the hallway and they give me the biggest hugs, which is probably the best part of my day, but knowing that those 4th graders the next year are going to be on a KCD team for middle school, since our middle school goes 5 through 8. And I will say that has helped our numbers tremendously in terms of getting teams to make sure we have enough numbers and then just good kids. We have a YMCA program as well that I've worked with to come and use our field on Sundays. And they do a program from same thing, kindergarten up to 4th. So really just giving those kids at a young age opportunities to play the sport, and all different sports, obviously, but getting them excited about the sport and about the school. And I like my head coaches as those coordinators, not only to either run that program or have someone run that program. I said, you might not be great with little kids. You might not like little kids, like that's fine, but someone has to do it, right? Someone in your program has to run this and make it successful because that's just a blueprint for success. And then the other benefit, or something that I, challenge my coaches to do, is work with the middle school coaches. Again, obviously difference in levels of skill, but take basketball, for example, like you can talk to them about terminology you use, what are some of the verbiage you use in high school for setting screens, or what are some of your offenses or defenses? Do you want them to run man? Do you want them to run zone? And it's your job to work with those middle school coaches. And yes, that's more work, but you're going to reap the benefit of that when those kids come from 8th grade to 9th and have already know a little bit about kind of whatever system it is that you want to install. So I know what I feel like has helped my coaches be successful, and what I've asked of my coaches to be successful athletically as a small school is really to work from the bottom to the top. You can't just expect, to have great teams and be super competitive by only working with, the juniors and seniors. I've worked at a public school before. It's very different. When I was the varsity coach there, that's all I really had to worry about. I knew there was going to be plenty of kids feeding in. I didn't necessarily know who they were, from our feeder schools, but we knew we were going to have plenty of kids and they were going to be good. At KCD, that's not the case. We have to build the program. We have to retain those kids, that in 8th grade want to go somewhere else because they've been at the school for 8 years, or they think, the grass is green on the other side. I want to try something different. So that's our coach's job. And, my job included to really invest in those kids and retain them so that we have not only great kids, but kids that we've taught and coached for so many years. So that's been huge, or at least what I really find success from our successful coaches has been working from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, I've never heard described that way, but you're absolutely right. We would talk at my school, and again, you and I have spoken before. Our schools were very similar. Um, we were a K through 12 school, but our head coaches, all of our varsity head coaches, were in charge of the entire program, all the way
Mhm.
down into the middle school teams. And some of our middle school sports had three separate teams. We had a separate component for those K through 5 programs, which was great, but most of our coaches would get involved with that, make the appearance, so everybody knew who Coach
Yeah.
Smith or Coach Jones was. And it was just so valuable in building, and you alluded to it, building that brand awareness and that brand loyalty. Those
Mhm.
6th, 7th graders, they would say, boy, I can't wait until I'm in high school to play for so and so. And we think it
Yeah.
had a very positive impact on keeping kids at our school rather than, oh, well, I think I'm going to see what happens at the big public school. Um, what are some things, again, for our listeners? I'm looking at Amy's office, and she has the KCD, Kentucky Country Day, KCD Bearcats, and the logo in the background. How important is the branding part of that equation for you with those little kids? We would, our t-shirts, our mascot was
Yeah.
the Marauders. And so we had Junior Marauder, we had Mini Marauder, but that Marauder logo was kind of a Minnesota Viking sort of kind of,
Yeah.
that was on everything that we gave the kids. Do you guys do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our headmaster from, I guess it's been like 5 years, that was one of the biggest things that he and kind of our media marketing person noticed coming in, was that we had all different fonts, all different logos. We would have pink t-shirts, even though our colors are gold and royal blue. And so he's like, hey, we have to brand this. And then we want to be able to put that, that Bearcat, and for people to know what that is, at least, in Louisville for sure. And so that's been a huge undertaking for us, and it really has, in my mind, taken off. We have kind of a school font now, and what's behind me is like kind of our athletic font, just a little thicker because we do Garamond, so it didn't go on t-shirts as well. But right now, I mean, we have, it is noticeable, and some people are like, hey, we want to make our own stuff, or we want to change this, or, want it to be funky. And I have to explain to them, yeah, the importance of the branding. And hey, I get that a lot of the t-shirts look the same. It might say, KCD Bearcats or KCD Lacrosse or, Bearcat Athletics, but we want people to notice what you're wearing, and it being similar obviously is going to create, that sense of ownership and understanding than having all these different colors and different fonts and different, logos. So that is huge. The branding part of it, and just getting the kids excited. Yeah. So giving them, whether it's t-shirts or magnets or, it doesn't keychains, we try to really stress the importance of being a Bearcat, and mine's called like Bear Kitten Field Hockey, so just, yeah, getting those kids, excited about being a Bearcat. And, in my opinion, some of my coaches, are the best recruiters for our admissions department because they want to play for, Coach Pat, and they want to play for Coach Jones, and they want to play for Coach Zick. It's like, so that is something that's just intangible, is how many kids really do make the decision, and how many have told me, like, we stayed because of Coach Pat, we stayed because of this coach. And you get the right people in that are doing the right things, and that's going to be huge in terms of helping your program overall. Because at our schools, not only will they be there for football, but then that same stud is going to be playing basketball and maybe lacrosse. So it's important that all the coaches have a piece in it, because those kids are multiple sport athletes for sure.
Yeah, I love that. That stud is going to be playing. That's one of my favorite words. Okay. Um, got another question. I think I know the answer, but um, for the hiring of middle school coaches and assistant coaches, I would really I don't want to say I would push the responsibility on. I would share the responsibility with those head coaches, because sometimes, that basketball coach, that soccer coach, their network, they might know somebody who would be a great fit in our program. So I would encourage them to seek out and bring me coaches. And if they brought them to me, I assume they knew the X's and O's. I would have that conversation with them about, particularly with middle school, hey, this is about fundamentals. This is
Mhm.
about fun. I'm not hanging any banners in the gym for your undefeated season. So it's about playing time at middle school. Do you do something like that?
Yeah, so I always, especially if I have a newer head coach, so like, for example, like, I just hired my lacrosse coaches here. The first thing I'll ask them to do is, see who they have in their network that they want to coach with them. So whether that's, on the varsity team, JV team, whatever levels we have. And typically, if we still have our same middle school coaches that will coach, I'll have them kind of get in touch and just make sure that they feel like they can work with them. But it is important. I think the AD it's nice also to pass, the buck a little bit and say, like, hey, bring me some people. But I think it's important that the head coach does have, some sort of autonomy in helping find their coaches, because obviously that's their network and who they're going to work with. But at the same time, there's a lot of times where they're like, we don't really know, and we'll just post it, you know what I mean? And we'll get different people and bring them in, and usually I'll vet them out and then say, like, hey, I think this person looked really good, and pass them on. So yeah, for example, I hired my new head basketball coach. His name's Cam Holsey, played at like Georgia Tech and played in the league. So I'm super excited about him. He's just taken over a couple of weeks ago. So they're doing some pickup games and whatnot. And I got this application to our HR, about an assistant coach. And so I brought the guy in. He was in town for a couple of days for, I think, like his sister's graduation or something. But long story short, I thought he was awesome. I was like, this guy is great. And just texted Cam and said, like, hey, you need to meet with him in the next 5 days. I'm ready to pull the trigger and hire him. I don't want to lose him. Tell me what you think. And they're meeting today. So I think, definitely working together with your head coach is important. I love if they have people, because number one, I think that's important, like you said, to use their resources. And then number two, to say, like, hey, I'm here for you if you don't have people, and I'll make sure I'm not just picking somebody that I like or, works for me. It needs to work for both of us. And I had an uncomfortable conversation last year with a coach who was trying to hire somebody on their team that I was like, I don't see this working. Like, I see where you are, and this person does not seem up to par. And that was difficult, but I really felt like I had to be honest, because it was kind of a friend, and those are tough conversations too, when they want to bring somebody in that you're not sure is a right fit for the program.
No, absolutely. It's that teamwork, that relationship, that trust that you got to have. But ultimately, as the AD, you got to be comfortable with your department. Okay, Amy, always a pleasure listening to you and sharing time with you. If one of our listeners wanted to add you to their network, find out more about how you do things at Kentucky Country Day, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way is through email. It's amy.elliott, ELLIOTT, @kcd.org.
Amy, thanks again for sharing. I know it's an incredibly busy time for all athletic directors, but I know you're doing a bunch of different things. Thanks for sharing with our group, and all the best with the rest of this spring season.
Of course, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
For our listeners, we certainly appreciate you tuning in. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this segment every single Thursday, and we share best practices with some great ADs from around the country just about every day. So we hope you come back on the next edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Amy Elliott is a real pro. Make sure you reach out and connect with her. Before we go, as always, we want to give a shout out one more time to all of our sponsors. We want to thank Gipper. Go to gipper.com. I want to thank Huddle, huddle.com. I want to thank Ohio University's online master's program. That's ohio.edu/info. We'd like to thank Home Campus for their support. That's homecampus.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Athletic Surveys, go to athleticsurveys.com. SnapRaise, snapraise.com. Sideline Interactive, it's sidelineinteractive.com. And Hometown Ticketing, go to hometownticketing.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Small School AD.